Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Sunday, 13th July, 25, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. The United States is applying pressure through trade and expanding military cooperation. President Trump levied a 30% tariff on EU goods after trade negotiations faltered and threatened similar actions against BRICS nations. The U.S. demanded trade concessions from its partners with a tariff deadline set for August 1, even as trade discussions with the EU continue. Militarily, the U.S., Australia, and Japan solidified their partnership with a trilateral naval logistics agreement. Further solidifying alliances, the U.S. will upgrade India's MiG-29 fleet after New Delhi abandoned a Russian deal. The Pentagon is investing in a U.S. rare earth company, securing vital resources. A U.S. think tank suggested reducing U.S. forces Korea, USFK, troop levels from 28,500 to around 10,000. A JAO report identified challenges in our space operation collaboration with allies. The U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School is integrating new aircraft into its curriculum. Satellite images confirmed damage at a U.S. base in Iran following an Iranian ballistic missile strike. The U.S. approved the sale of F/A-18C Hornets to the Royal Malaysian Air Force, RAF, supporting Kuwaiti warplanes guarding Malaysia's South China Sea claims. Tragically, Russia launched deadly air attacks on Ukraine, resulting in at least 6 deaths. Ukrainian forces are successfully using a German Skynex gun system to intercept Russian drones. In response to US tariffs, the European Union vowed to implement protectionist measures. The EU is engaged in ongoing trade talks with the US seeking an agreement. Shifting focus to India, the nation is upgrading its MiG-29 fleet with us assistance after canceling a deal to purchase Russian fighter jets. Within Iran, satellite imagery confirmed damage to a U.S. base following an Iranian ballistic missile attack. In South Korea, a U.S. think tank has proposed reducing U.S. forces Korea, USFK, troop levels from 28,500 to approximately 10,000. Turning to Malaysia, Kuwaiti warplanes will assist in protecting Malaysia's claims in the South China Sea following the U.S. approval of F/A-18C Hornet sales to the Royal Malaysian Air Force, AMAL. Finally, Australia and Japan have formalized a trilateral naval logistics agreement with the United States to enhance maritime cooperation. The UK's economic landscape is showing signs of strain, with GDP figures unexpectedly dipping for the second month running, sparking worries about the country's financial future, given global economic anxieties related to US tariffs and persistent inflation. Simultaneously, the UK and France are deepening their defense ties, reigniting joint production of the Storm Shadow Scalp Age missiles, a move signaling stronger collaboration in nuclear deterrence. Further projecting its influence abroad, the UK, in concert with France and Italy, is planning a joint Indo-Pacific aircraft carrier deployment. On a more somber note, for domestic industry, the production line for Eurofighter Typhoons within the UK is ceasing operations, a consequence of the Royal Air Force's reduced demand. Shifting focus to internal affairs, over 70 individuals were apprehended during demonstrations, backing the proscribed Palestine Action Group, reflecting ongoing tensions surrounding geopolitical issues. Turning to Ukraine, the nation recently endured the most intense wave of Russian long-range drone attacks seen thus far in the conflict. In a potential boost to its defense capabilities, Ukrainian drone manufacturers may soon receive authorization to export their advanced technology and expertise to neighboring European countries. Meanwhile, the U.S. is restarting its arms shipments to Ukraine, following a shift in policy. These supplies are reportedly being channeled through NATO, with allegations surfacing that NATO is providing financial backing for the weaponry. China has introduced new export controls on rare earth minerals, seen as a strategic economic maneuver, potentially impacting the Pentagon's supply chain. This follows worries about Beijing's disinformation campaigns. These campaigns allegedly aim to damage sales of French Rafale jets to promote Chinese-made aircraft. The United States is responding to China's growing influence with multifaceted economic and military strategies. President Trump's tariffs seek to reduce trade with China and its key trading partners. These include Asian economies like Japan, South Korea, and Indonesia. In a military move, the U.S. deployed its first F-35 fighter jet in the Philippines. This deployment is potentially designed to counter China's advanced ferocious Typhoon missile system. Further bolstering its economic independence, the Pentagon is investing in domestic rare earth production. This includes acquiring a 15% stake in MP Materials and funding a magnet manufacturing plant within the USI. South Korea recently hosted the U.S. Indo-Pacific Commander for a trilateral Chiefs of Defense meeting, highlighting strong regional security ties. Reinforcing its military commitment, the U.S. Air Force is deploying upgraded F-16 fighters to South Korea. In a move to bolster its naval power, South Korea is also developing a carrier-based combat drone. Demonstrating regional unity, South Korea, the U.S., and Japan conducted joint aerial drills aimed at North Korea. Due to budgetary limitations, South Korea has reportedly cancelled its planned acquisition of 36 R-64 Apache helicopters. United States. The U.S. Army is set to significantly bolster its missile defense capabilities, planning to quadruple its procurement of Patriot missiles. This substantial increase in missile acquisition comes at a crucial juncture, marked by persistent tensions with Iran and ongoing debates within Congress regarding continued aid to Ukraine. Iran. Tensions in the Middle East continue to simmer, evidenced by a recent incident in June, where an Iranian ballistic missile struck within the perimeter of a U.S. airbase located in Qatar. Beyond this, Iran has also reportedly targeted 5 separate Israeli military bases in recent action. Adding to the complex political landscape, renewed speculation and discussions have surfaced concerning potential candidates to succeed Supreme Leader Khamenei, particularly in the aftermath of the recent conflict involving Israel. Japan, South Korea, and the United States recently conducted a trilateral flight exercise, highlighting their collaborative security efforts. The U.S. Air Force's 35th Fighter Wing in Japan is gearing up to incorporate F-35 fighter jets, while concurrently, F-16s are being transferred to South Korea to enhance its air defense. Japan is also planning to support the Philippines' naval forces by transferring 6 used Abukuma-class Navy destroyers, and is in talks to supply further warships and surveillance aircraft. France is actively bolstering its defense capabilities and international security commitments. Testing included Maka air missiles against high-altitude balloons. A deal is potentially being finalized to sell an additional 24 Rafale fighter jets to the Indonesian Air Force. France, collaborating with Britain, is increasing its core peacekeeping force dedicated to Ukraine. Potential troop levels could reach up to 50,000. Australia is currently hosting Exercise Talisman, Sabre 25, a joint military exercise with the U.S. Marines in its northern region, while an Australian tank is on display in a British museum, and the Chief of the Royal Australian Air Force, RAF, recently visited Singapore. Turning to Canada, the nation is considering acquiring combat drones to complement its F-35 fighter jets, which could create significant opportunities for the U.S. defense sector. Shifting focus to China, Germany has accused a Chinese warship of directing a laser at a German aircraft in the Middle East, and Chinese citizens were arrested in Greece for infiltrating an airbase and photographing Hellenic Rafale fighter jets. The Ethiopian and Nigerian air forces are forging a closer defense partnership with a focus on jointly developing unmanned aerial vehicles, WHAM. In Europe, the United Kingdom and France are collaborating to replenish their Storm Shadow cruise missile stocks after supplying them to Ukraine. In Germany, concerns are growing about the fairness of executive appointments, with increasing scrutiny over the role of exclusive networks in filling leadership positions. Greece saw the apprehension of Chinese nationals who infiltrated an airbase and Hellenic Rafale fighter jets. Indonesia is evaluating various fighter aircraft options, maintaining a broad approach to its procurement strategy, while the Polish Air Force chief and an Indonesian test pilot recently flew on the KF-21 Borome. In India, an Indian Air Force Jaguar fighter jet crashed in Rajasthan, tragically resulting in the pilot's death. Reports indicate that Iran's nuclear program was targeted in a joint strike by Israel, and the U.S.-Israel launched a relief flight, demonstrating its commitment to humanitarian aid. Saudi Arabia is contemplating joining the collaborative fighter jet program involving Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom, while Japan is considering transferring 6 used destroyers to the Philippines. Malaysia is enhancing its air surveillance capabilities through the acquisition of 2 additional ground Master 400 Alpha long-range air surveillance radars from Thale. Norway is planning to acquire up to 9 HHH-60W Jolly Green Cell helicopters. Pakistan is prioritizing drone development for its air force, moving away from traditional fighter jets, and the South African Air Force, SAF, is seeking training and aircraft maintenance support from Pakistan. Peru has committed to a $3.50 billion fighter jet deal, opting for the Gripen E over the F-16 and Rafale. The Philippines may receive 6 used destroyers from Japan, but a report suggests that the U.S. Air Force Base in Qatar poses a potential liability and should be considered for closure. The U.S. Air Force's 51st Fighter Wing has deployed upgraded F-16 jets to the Republic of Korea. Saudi Arabia is considering joining the joint fighter jet program involving Japan, the UK, and Italy. The Chief of the Royal Australian Air Force, RAF, recently visited Singapore. The South African Air Force, SAF, is seeking training and aircraft maintenance services from Pakistan. Taiwan has deployed advanced rockets in a closely watched part of its annual drill. In the United States, former President Trump has threatened to impose 30% tariffs on goods from the EU and Mexico. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.